My name's Harriet. I hack your AI so the bad guys can't. Hello everyone, welcome to the next episode in the Intro to AI Security series, and today we're finally talking about AI for cybersecurity. Now, if you've been following along, you know that one of my bugbears is people assuming that I do AI for cybersecurity when actually I work in the security of AI systems themselves, which often use cybersecurity related techniques and principles, but I am the first to point out that they are absolutely not the same thing. And while you could think of them as two sides of the same coin, the very premise of AI security as an attack surface in its own right with its own vulnerabilities and exploits is very different to the use of AI for different cybersecurity applications. The rest of the series has focused on AI security specifically, but I would of course be remiss if I didn't end the series by talking about AI for cybersecurity, because it is very important for many reasons. It's important because of its impact. It can have a tremendous positive and negative impact in cybersecurity, but also because there is just so much discussion around it, and I get a little bit sick of people hyping it up, just like AI can be hyped up in general. And the idea of this episode is to cut through some of that hype, explain what some potential use cases of artificial intelligence in cybersecurity are, but also explain why a lot of the media headlines we see probably aren't really doing the cause justice. Now, it is important to talk about AI for cybersecurity because cybersecurity is a massive problem and it's a massive industry. It can have devastating consequences when cyber attacks are conducted against small, medium enterprises, against large organizations, and against governments. And then, of course, there is the entire cybersecurity industry, which is designed to prevent these kinds of attacks from occurring, or at least mitigating the risks and the potential consequences of these attacks. And it is worth billions. In 2022, the global market for cybersecurity related products was $15 billion, and this is set to grow to $135 billion by 2030. I had to check my notes because I can't even believe that. It's worth a lot. Cybercrime is actually one of the most harmful challenges that are facing businesses, and this includes things like data breaches and ransomware. Obviously, there are lots of different reasons that threat actor would try to infiltrate a system, whether it is for stealing data, holding that company to ransom to get money, or it could be things like stealing intelligence and just wanting the value of that information, personal information to conduct scams, IP theft is a big issue. So many reasons that threat actors conduct cyber attacks. The cybersecurity industry is also relatively mature. I guess it really depends how you define mature. They're a big industry, there's a lot of best practice that exists, but of course the internet only proliferated through since the 1970s, so it's about as mature as it could be for a relatively new technology. However, there is a massive landscape of companies out there that provide cybersecurity services, from the sort of necessities like firewalls, network protection, monitoring, through to more advanced services and products like penetration testing, red teaming, even, physical penetration testing, social engineering. And then, of course, because there are a lot of cybersecurity standards and requirements that exist, there are lots of companies that help with compliance and risk management for companies. Things like aligning with ISO and NIST. Now, many of the products that are offered by cybersecurity companies integrate a degree of automation, because almost anything involving a computer does in some level these days. And so, therefore, the allure of adding artificial intelligence on top of this automation is obviously quite appealing. AI in every industry promises doing more things for less money, basically. And obviously this is quite appealing to cybersecurity companies, where from the company's perspective, they can service more clients, their technology can be more effective, and ideally they wouldn't have to spend as much money for the returns that they're getting. And then from the customer side, obviously they have increased capability provided by the supplier, and they're more likely to find attacks or actors on their network and save them money without having to pay more money to this provider. So it's no surprise that AI in cybersecurity obviously gets a bit of airtime, just like every other industry. However, Also, like every other industry, this is much easier said than done. All of the organizations that I've worked with before often get caught in the sort of the proof of concept phase when it comes to artificial intelligence. It's relatively easy to spin up some kind of AI solution, but it's actually very hard to make it work well, yield the kind of results that an organization is expecting when they invest in artificial intelligence, and it's difficult to scale out across the organization. They often get sort of stuck in teams, labs, the proof of concept phase. Now, this is true of cybersecurity companies as well. Obviously, the technical expertise in these companies is pretty high, but so too is the tech expertise in the IT teams of a lot of big companies too. And just because that a company is very good at cybersecurity doesn't necessarily mean that they will be good at artificial intelligence too. So all of the challenges associated with AI adoption across industries is also true of cybersecurity companies. And like I've said in many other videos, what even constitutes artificial intelligence has always been pretty fuzzy. What was considered AI 10 years ago was like a support vector machine or like very advanced automation, whereas these days it's like ChatGPT. Obviously, I've talked in previous videos about how artificial intelligence only recently was defined by ISO anyway. Usually when people talk about artificial intelligence, they're referring to a goal rather than a specific technology. So maybe this is unfair, but I do always like to make a point of visiting different cybersecurity companies. And I say cyber companies because it's usually cyber conferences that I go to. So when I go to all of the sort of the vendor stalls at these conferences, I often walk around the booths, particularly the startup booths, because I guess they're my competition, but not really. I'm sort of more of a small business. But I noticed that most of them say that they use artificial intelligence, and I can't help but ask them how, what exactly are you using? What are you using it for? Tell me about your artificial intelligence. And maybe that's an unfair question because I'm asking the salespeople, right? And they're not the tech experts, although I would argue that they should know a bit about their company's AI. That question is usually met by terror and denial. And usually companies say something about, it helps decision making, there's automation. They very rarely talk about modern, advanced kinds of artificial intelligence technologies. And sometimes they talk about ChatGPT, but I wouldn't necessarily argue that integrating ChatGPT into a solution is necessarily using artificial intelligence in an advanced way, or at least in a way that it sets them miles ahead of their competitors, So the point for me saying that is not at all that cybersecurity companies are lying in that they don't use artificial intelligence when they do. There's so many cool technologies that are being used by cybersecurity companies to augment their existing products and services, and I think it's great. I think the challenge really is that artificial intelligence is still so fuzzily defined by most people, and especially in these contexts, it's definitely more of a marketing term than anything specific. While maybe a lot of cybersecurity companies don't use what we would consider or what the media would tell us is artificial intelligence, like maybe they're not creating their own transformer models, maybe they're not creating some kind of omniscient intelligence, they're still doing really cool things with technology. Does that need to be artificial intelligence? No. If a solution doesn't require artificial intelligence, you don't need to be using it, and that doesn't invalidate the product or the service. Now, when we talk about artificial intelligence for cybersecurity, there are a few key groups of issues that we can allocate this particular subject into. Now, the first use is artificial intelligence in those cybersecurity companies that offer products and services to other entities who then want to integrate artificial intelligence into their products. Now, the second group, and this is probably the one that most people are concerned about, is the potential use of threat actors and nation states to use artificial intelligence to attack other nation states. Actually, I should say in here as well, this includes criminal organizations. So basically all the bad guys who could use artificial intelligence to do more bad things. The third group of AI for cybersecurity is more in the nation state defensive side. So if we think about that second bucket, that The criminal group, they're often more likely to be targeting organizations, and so therefore that defensive element comes from those companies offering the cybersecurity. However, in the nation-state realm, it's often government agencies and nation-states who are defending their nations and their countries from a national security perspective, and so this is the third group of AI for cybersecurity. It basically looks at defending nations from AI security attacks using artificial intelligence. Or I guess in here you could also say that it is nation-states defending themselves from attacks by humans using artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence can be used in threat detection and prevention. So these systems can analyze massive amounts of network traffic, user behavior, and system logs to detect anomalies and potential threats. Machine learning algorithms can learn normal patterns of behavior and quickly identify deviations that might indicate a cyber attack. This enables early detection and proactive response to potential security breaches. Artificial intelligence can also enable malware detection. These systems can analyze the behavior and characteristics of files to identify potentially malicious software or malware. By examining code patterns and comparing files against known malware databases, we can identify new and previously unknown threats. Artificial intelligence can also be used in phishing and fraud prevention. So these systems can help identify phishing emails, fraudulent websites, and social engineering attacks by analyzing text, metadata, sender behavior, and other indicators. Machine learning models can learn from historical data to improve accuracy in identifying suspicious communication. Artificial intelligence can also be used in user and entity behavior analytics. These systems can build profiles of normal behavior for users and entities within a system. When deviations from these profiles occur, the system can trigger alerts, helping organizations detect insider threats, compromised accounts, or unauthorized activities. This data can even include typing patterns and mouse movements. Artificial intelligence can enable security analytics. These systems can process and correlate vast amounts of security data from various sources, enabling security analysts to identify patterns and potential threats more efficiently. This helps to make quicker and more informed decisions. Artificial intelligence can be used for automated incident response. These systems can assist in automating incident response workflows. It can prioritize alerts, suggest potential responses, and execute predefined actions to contain and mitigate threats in real time. Artificial intelligence can assist in vulnerability management. So these systems can assist in identifying vulnerabilities in software and systems by analyzing code and configurations. It can also prioritize vulnerabilities based on potential impact, helping organizations focus their resources on critical issues. Artificial intelligence can be used for adaptive security. So these systems can adapt to evolving threats by continuously learning from new data. This adaptability is critical in an environment where cyber threats are constantly evolving. Artificial intelligence can be used in network security. These systems can monitor network traffic in real time, detecting suspicious activities and unauthorized access attempts. It can also identify patterns associated with distributed denial of service attacks and help mitigate them. So there's clearly some really beneficial uses of artificial intelligence here, things that use machine learning, algorithms, and analytics. However, is this the kind of intelligence that we imagine when we see artificial intelligence depicted in the media, like a kind of Skynet that can be pointed at a computer and suddenly do everything that a human can do? The answer is no. Human workers are still very important. As you can see from all of the AI-related tasks I listed before, these are all things that would augment human teams right now. Not to say that at some point some Skynet-like entity couldn't exist, but we're pretty far away from that now. Right now, the kind of artificial intelligence that we're seeing in the cybersecurity world is if you looked at a human team and all of the small skills and tasks that comprise that entire team, it's very difficult for artificial intelligence to fulfill the role of even a single human. It can be very good at some of the tasks that are spread across human workers, things that are automated, mandrolic, particularly with some of the new generative AI algorithms right now, being able to write reports, write code, make things faster. But AI right now absolutely does not have the critical thinking ability of a human to be able to understand the actual problem that we're looking to solve and find a solution based on the appropriate amount of context and then fit that together with all the other required solutions. AI is very good at discrete tasks, even more complicated discrete tasks. However, right now, it could definitely not replace an entire human team for the most part, for most organizations. Artificial intelligence these days is often called as a sort of bit of a panic button for cybersecurity companies not being able to find enough human workers, which is totally understandable. However, being able to replace some human roles with AI capability doesn't mean that you don't necessarily need to stop investing in people or stop trying to hire people or stop training people. It's more about the idea of augmenting teams. So one of the big fears around AI in the cybersecurity space is not necessarily AI used by cybersecurity companies and then sort of going rogue, but it is usually the threat of some sort of nation-state-based threat actor having really advanced AI and being able to use that to attack many other countries. Now, just like organizations have a really hard time adopting artificial intelligence, I mean, governments have a hard time too, just because they have access to, more information, more funding, more decision-making power, doesn't necessarily mean that they're automatically great at integrating AI into their business, just like any other large, well-funded company still has a hard time of doing that too. My opinion on this is that while threat actors will absolutely be able to use artificial intelligence to augment their team, this is also true of every other nation state. While we can definitely have concerns that some nation states might be more ahead at developing artificial intelligence, what we find in practice regarding technology is that it's usually quite difficult for a single actor to be able to leapfrog ahead of other states in a way that has a really clear strategic advantage. AI technologies can obviously make their jobs easier, and it's something that we need to be really conscious of. And there are examples of this happening now, but I'm going to complement these examples with examples from history, just to point out that while AI is obviously a new technology, there have been many other technologies that have been new and that have augmented teams and criminal teams, and that we just have to be conscious that it's always a cat and mouse game. For example, threat actors do use automation to find vulnerabilities that they can exploit faster. For example, criminals have been port scanning for decades, so this means that they are automatically scanning for misconfigured ports or ports that shouldn't be connected to the internet, but they are. Now, criminals can use artificial intelligence to do this, but would this necessarily be faster than using existing automation techniques? Not necessarily at this point. Now, threat actors can use tools like ChatGPT or other generative AI to craft better phishing emails, and this is obviously a concern. However, criminals have also been using tools like Google Translate to create better phishing emails, or native speakers, as long as, Google Translate has been a technology that's existed. And while this has obviously made detection harder, it's really been an opportunity for people to become more educated about what to look out for in a phishing message. Criminals also have access to generative AI to create realistic photos and videos for scams or for criminal activity, threatening people, all that bad stuff. Now, this is obviously concerning, but criminals have always been using technology to create better photos and videos through things like Photoshop. And obviously Photoshop is not as good as a tool like generative AI, but a lot of the examples we see in the media of deepfakes, they're not necessarily at the level yet where you can do very realistic real-time streaming. And there are still key things that you can look out for in identifying whether something is generated or whether it's real. Now, I'm not trying to delegitimize fears around AI here. Of course, there are some big concerns and we really need to grapple with them. What I'm really trying to point out is that, from my perspective, it's far less about the technology itself and far more about the environment that it's in. And this is both in terms of the technology, but also the process and the processes that organizations have in place to identify and interact with customers. The thing, in my opinion, that would never change is that humans will always be the weakest link. And while maybe humans can be better exploited by using AI systems, the fact is that all of the existing mechanisms that we have to sort of harden the human attack surface against threats is something that is still the most important thing. And this is why I think it is so important that people are trained in cybersecurity and AI security, and that organizations have good and robust processes in place to minimize the amount of human decision making that has to go into encountering a potential scam of this sort. Like I said, I think it's so much more about the environment and the kinds of systems that you have in place rather than the specific technology itself. Now, there's obviously a lot of investment in AI for cybersecurity around the world. Some of the big players include the United States, the European Union, and China. So the US government is investing billions of dollars in AI for cybersecurity. This includes the creation of the National AI Initiative, which aims to develop and deploy AI technologies to protect critical infrastructure and national security systems. Also, the National Security Agency recently announced the creation of an AI security centre, which makes me really happy. Now, the European AI Act constitutes by far the strictest regulations around AI use and misuse, and it aims to harmonise AI standards across the EU and promote the use of secure and safe AI technologies. China is a major investor in artificial intelligence for cybersecurity. They are developing a number of AI-powered cybersecurity systems, and they aim to be the biggest AI player by the year 2030. Now, this year when I was at DEF CON 2023, DARPA announced a massive funding initiative called the AI X Cyber Challenge, and it basically funds a number of teams and then has an open round as well for teams who want to participate over 2 years to build solutions and compete for prizes to tackle cybersecurity challenges using AI technologies. And the funding and the prizes are in the millions, so it is obviously very appealing, and you know that I'm entering that with my team. The other thing I want to add about artificial intelligence for cybersecurity is that it's not necessarily new, like I said at the beginning. The previous team that I worked in was a data science team doing cybersecurity applications. And while I didn't really consider what I did artificial intelligence, I guess other people would, is the thing. Being able to apply data, algorithms, analytics to cybersecurity problems is not new and is very valid and is pretty easy to do. And so I think the challenge about talking about cybersecurity challenges in terms of artificial intelligence is that most of the challenges that people associate with it are the very existential, philosophical safety type challenges, whereas in reality there are very few, actually I know 0 applications of AI in cybersecurity that are even that level of intelligence right now. So I feel like this episode has been very cynical. Sorry about that, but I think you knew it was going to be. Want to end on a positive note and say that I do believe that artificial intelligence has so much potential when it comes to cybersecurity, depending on what we mean by artificial intelligence. And I think that we always need to focus on the problem that we're trying to solve first and not the technology, because I've been in so many projects or teams where people want to add artificial intelligence because it sounds cool, because it's a buzzword, but it's not the appropriate solution for the problem. And when we get to a point, or when organizations get to a point where artificial intelligence is the right solution for the problem, I think that's really interesting and really cool, and I'm excited to see that. I think there's a lot of potential, but I don't want people to be unnecessarily scared about AI use in cybersecurity, because I'm not scared. Okay, it's now that time of the week, and it's the AI joke of the week. Yes, I'm still doing that. Okay, so today, I don't know if you know this, but I always look up the jokes on ChatGPT because that's it's basically how I Google these days. It's just more efficient. However, the AI jokes that it gave were really bad. If there's anyone from OpenAI watching, ChatGPT really needs to up its game in the jokes department because they're all so cringy. And so I just had to pivot today, and I asked ChatGPT to give me some cybersecurity jokes because I think that's fitting. Okay, I mean, they're still not amazing, but I've chosen this one. Okay, why was the computer cold? It left its windows open. You know, part of me thinks that I might have told that joke already because so many of them are just so bad, and that one is somewhat funny. Have I said that one before? I don't know. If you have any jokes, let me know. Okay, in the next episode, we're going to be talking about how you can upskill in AI security. So please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you then.